Hello, my name is Jacob Fry. Today I'll be doing the evidence collection project, and I'll be doing a rundown of the scenario and then the actual evidence collection portion of the assignment. So first off, the scenario starts out with a call to the 911 operating center of a possible domestic disturbance. It's in a residential neighborhood. Neighbors heard shouting, screaming, and called 911. When the arriving officer, the first responder, came to the scene, he immediately noticed that the door was broken, and just a few short feet in front of the door was a body, a visible body. So, as he should, the first arriving officer called for backup and secured the scene to avoid any contamination to the evidence, to stop bystanders, neighbors, and any other officers from wandering through the crime scene and contaminating any physical evidence that may be present. When coming to a crime scene, it's important to remember the ethics as a crime scene investigator, not to make assumptions when arriving somewhere. Rather, that's about family members, neighbors, possibly even know the victim. And it's important to remember to avoid tampering with any evidence. I shouldn't say avoid, to not tamper with any evidence. Don't collect only evidence that would point towards somebody. To manipulate evidence to look like something. These are all the ethical decisions that have to be made at a crime scene. And for court purposes, the second most important part when collecting evidence is utilizing the chain of custody. The chain of custody will resemble a log. So when a fiber, gun shell, any type of evidence is picked up, the chain of custody must be started. So whatever that item may be, that physical piece of evidence will be put into some type of collection bin, bag, envelope, and it should be labeled with what it was, where it was located, the case number, the initial officer, and then the log should almost mimic the same type of information, where it's being transported, what it's being stored in, who touched it, where it was found, time it was found. All these things are pertinent to this evidence, especially if it is deemed acceptable to be a part of the court case. A lot of times evidence is thrown out of court because the chain of custody had poor traceability or wasn't sufficient enough to be used to point towards a suspect in a criminal trial. So without further ado, I will do the evidence collection portion. Utilizing my forensics toolbox, I have latex gloves. And I want to put these on to avoid putting my fingerprints on any of the items that I'm collecting. None of my DNA, all these things would compromise the integrity of the evidence, and more than likely it will no longer be sufficient enough to be used. Okay. So I have my evidence collection bag. And the first piece of evidence that was found at this crime scene was a hair fiber at the base of the broken door, almost on the glass. More than likely that was from the assailant when they broke it, possibly a hair or arm, an arm hair fell off, and that is something we're going to want to collect. So we're going to put that in a sealed evidence baggie. We're going to tag it. I'm going to be picking it up with a pair of tweezers, and we're going to pick it up, seal it in the bag, and that'll be sent to the lab to be tested for DNA, especially if it is of the top of the head. It then may have skin left on it from the scalp, or it's deep tissue hair. Here is the body. This is the body, not too far from the doorway where it was broken. And here is the weapon, the possible weapon of choice. Obviously it has blood on it. It's consistent with the patterns on the victim. So we are going to want to use fingerprint cards to get any type of fingerprints that are on this weapon. And we're going to want to get these picked up and get those sent. And then we are going to use a Q-tip to recover this blood sample that is found on the broken glass, possibly from the suspect. So we're going to get the blood sample from there, and we're going to put this in a sealed container to be sent in for further processing. The crime scene will need to be fully scanned for any other types of evidence. So that would include towels that may have blood on them, sink traps, anything of that nature, especially if the suspect was trying to clean themselves after the attack, or any type of items that they had left behind will all need to be collected and tagged and recorded into the chain of custody paperwork for further analysis. Thank you.